Would you mind starting over just for our purposes, since,
Oh, of course.
yeah, that way that doesn't play in our story tonight.
Okay, gotcha. All right. It's great to see you all here tonight. Welcome.
Welcome.
My name is Rinda West. I am the co-chair of the Workers' Rights Board in Reproductive Justice. And we're doing this series of hearings on the consequences of the cuts to federal agencies. Now, obviously, these cuts affect the working people who lose their jobs, but they also affect the functioning of the agencies. And it's been very interesting to me to come to understand more about what these federal agencies do for us and why we need them, and why we need them to be fully staffed and fully functional, and what are the consequences for people of the loss of full staffing. For example, we had someone here from the Social Security Administration, and she said, the lines are long when we're fully staffed. But you can expect that the lines are going to be interminably long when the staff is cut. So tonight we are hearing from the Veterans Administration and the Environmental Protection Agency. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you all have to say. And I'm going to introduce Don Villar, who is the Secretary Treasurer of the Chicago Federation of Labor, and he's going to get us oriented. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Thank you. As you know, we've been following here at the Chicago Federation of Labor since I guess a month and a half now, right? It's been in office for about a month and a half, a little over a month and a half, almost 2 months. And you know, DOGE and the cuts in the whether it's the layoffs, the mass layoffs, or the cuts in funding or denial of funding, it's impacting these. At the end of the day, you know, our civil servants are valuable. Everything they do, their work they do contribute to our lives and affect the work that we do. And that's so critical and vital in this moment that we have to acknowledge that. I mean, and they are not, I think there's somebody labeled Lorraine, an enemy of the state. No, she's not an enemy of the state. She's a scientist who cares about, you know, the work that, you know, to protect our air, water, soil. And, you know, and Denise, I mean, you know, she is not a leech on the system. She is a valuable worker, and the work that she does is critical for the benefit of the veterans who sacrifice so much. So this is a series again we've been doing now. It's the third in our installment, working with the Jobs with Justice Workers' Rights Board to you have to tell these stories, the stories of real workers and what they do and the value that they give to us. And without them, you know, we can't function. All of their work connects us. And we always say in the labor movement, work connects us. The work that they do, the work we do, it all connects us. But the work that federal workers, civil servants do, it allows us to work. It keeps us moving. So, and I really appreciate you all coming today. And I know we have a lot of people online joining us on Zoom. And we'll start off with, Lorraine Targos is with the EPA. Denise Mercerson is with the VA, and Mike Applegate, he is a veteran, and he depends on the services of the VA. So, you know what, we will start with Lorraine at the EPA, because when this all began, when the attacks on federal sector began, I think some of the folks who were signaling the warning were the workers at EPA. So, Lorraine, take us away.
How much time do I have?
As much as you want. Well, you know, I'll get the hug.
No more than 3.5 hours.
Right, so, yeah, thank you all for being here. My name is Lorraine Targos. I'm Executive Vice President of the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE Local 704. AFGE is the largest union representing federal workers across so many different agencies, including the Environmental Protection Agency, where I work as a scientist and have since 2015. And I worked in the Great Lakes National Program Office But we have offices that, we have the Office of Water, Office of Air, all sorts of acronyms that I couldn't spout off the top of my head right now. But the work that we do with the Environmental Protection Agency is, we prevent tragedies and we respond to tragedies. We respond to emergencies. Here in the Great Lakes region, we'll respond to oil spills and leaks. We responded to Flint. We responded to East Palestine, Ohio, which is an environmental justice community. You've seen attacks on the concept of environmental justice. And ultimately, we need to understand that this is an attack on workers because we're the ones who whose clean air and clean water and clean soil they're attacking. They're not polluting in the affluent areas, they're polluting in working class communities. And in working class communities that are most highly targeted, those are folks who might qualify as environmental justice communities. Environmental justice can be cleared up as sort of a triage on the areas that are most critically in need of enforcement. For example, I live in Pilsen, which is on the southwest side of Chicago, kind of near I-55, and there is a lot of heavy industry concentrated there. That means that my air is different where I live now than it was when I grew up in the north suburbs of Chicago. Much different concept of what industry is there versus heavy tractor trailer trucks going right past my house where my kids are breathing air while their lungs are developing and breathing more air pound per pound than we do as adults. And those are the things that environmental scientists are working on in EPA and all the supporting staff that are there. There are so many stories of how political interference took place even under the first Trump administration. And now we're seeing an enforcement that if you are going, inspections are now being allowed again, but if you find anything that's worthy of doing any sort of enforcement action or even initiating enforcement action, that now needs to go up through 8 levels of approval all the way up to headquarters. So, you know, we could all speculate on what's happening along those 8 levels, but I'm pretty sure it's not working class people having their health protected. And so we see a lot from this administration trying to divide and conquer and create fear among the working class, make us afraid of each other, and particularly around crime. But crime comes in many forms, and one of those forms is giving Americans cancer.
Yes.
Giving us respiratory diseases and all sorts of other, drip drop contamination and all sorts of other things that, we're becoming more and more aware of and we're more and more alarmed by. And so we need to, instead of cutting the budget to EPA, and right now our staffing levels are what they were during Reagan's administration.
Okay.
Right now, just after a month and a half of the Trump administration. And of course, we've had a great deal of population growth in the Great Lakes region since that time. So the problems are alarming. And ultimately, we need to recognize that this is beyond federal workers. This is an attack on the working class to try to divide us, just like they do with concepts of criminalization and all sorts of other ways that they make us afraid of each other. And, this is not a left or right issue. We all need clean water, clean air, clean soil. And there's a very small, few hundred billionaire families that are profiting from this. That's who we need to be clear on who's benefiting from this. And there are hundreds of millions of us that are not benefiting from this. We must stand together and protect. And I didn't even mention climate change yet. And I didn't even mention the rollback of civil rights protections and the attacks on, women's rights and all sorts of this, the Civil War is being relitigated, the 14th Amendment. We see an immigrant who has a green card who's being abducted by government agencies now. So, all of those affect EPA workers and the people that we serve just as much as anything else everyone does. So just want to encourage everyone to recognize that we're not alone. This is not hopeless. And I've been very empowered by the response. I know there are some folks out there maybe claiming that I'm an enemy of the state. And, at some point they They take everything from you and then they take your fear. So we gotta speak up, we gotta stand up, courage is contagious. And I'm gonna keep speaking out until I can't anymore. And I know there's lots more people like me who are gonna keep standing up and raising their voices, including the people who are here today. There's an energy that I'm feeling and that's not gonna go away. It's gonna keep building. We're not afraid of that anger. We're gonna channel that anger into something productive. We're gonna build something better than what existed before that facilitated all this.
Legal disclaimer, the opinions, that they express on their own are not, of the agencies, and they are not speaking on behalf of the agencies.
My name is Denise Murchison. I'm also a member of AFGE, which is American Federation of Federal Employees, which is a very important organization, even more so. A social worker. And I'd like to give you kind of the big picture here that I'm learning. And what I have learned is even under Project 2025, it was found that the VA is one of the most respected agencies in the federal government. And studies have shown that the care that our veterans receive at the VA is comparable and even better than some private healthcare systems. So the idea that we are going to eliminate over 80,000 positions and maintain this level of excellence that we have worked so hard to achieve, that's not going to happen. What I would like to share with you, because I was asked to share what this means to me, and once again, I'm speaking as a citizen and in my own capacity as a social worker. Did you know that the social worker is, the VA is the biggest employer of social workers in the country.
Wow.
We have 9.1 million veterans that we are very proud. We're essential. Are you aware of the number of homeless veterans we have? But we have closed that gap with the help of not only the social workers, but the healthcare system. That's why you need stable housing, so that you can have wonderful health. In the program that I'm in, which is geriatrics, who doesn't want to have a beautiful, because we're aging very nicely in this country. I don't want to say old age, but when we get to that point of our life, we want a quality of life. And that's why the doctors are essential, and the VA is the biggest employer of nurses in the country. That's why we need the physical therapists, the OT, all these essential positions. But it's not like, it's not a pyramid. All these positions are supported by supply, by clerks, administrative people that the secretary of the VA has deemed, and he's a veteran himself, maybe they're not essential. So I really want to encourage everyone here today to speak out to our representatives and not take for granted that, that they know how important that is for them. I was also asked to speak about the stresses, and some individuals have committed suicide. 2,400 people have been laid off today, and that's only going to get bigger. At our town hall meetings, and we do have a wonderful facility director, at every meeting I go to, we are encouraged to go to the employee assistance program because this is stressful and our jobs are important to us. The veterans are counting on us. So we very much want to show up as we have shown up in the past. I'm going to stop right there and pass the baton.
Sure, Mike, yeah.
Here's my update. I'm a United States Navy veteran. I served from, 2006. I'm also a licensed clinical professional counselor and therapist, so I'm also in the mental health field. I just would like to share with you first, some information about the VA. So with that, there are approximately 18 million veterans in this country. The VA serves half, which out of 340 million people in the United States, 6% of the population are veterans. It is the largest integrated healthcare system in the United States. There are over 1,300 healthcare facilities, 107. Medical centers and over 1,100 outpatient sites. The VA was created as a government agency in the 1930s by President Hoover, which formed the Veterans Bureau, the Bureau of Pensions, and the National Home to Disabled Volunteer Soldiers. This was largely due to veterans from World War I and the onset of the Depression and the pull of socialism at the time. The government wanted to stem the tide of veterans into the Socialist Party, which was at the time gaining a lot of momentum. And this is very relevant today, as how the society, our social safety net is being dismantled. Not just veterans, but across the country. And the national minimum wage is not enough for even a single person to live on in the last 20 years. And the war has created a lot of veterans who are extremely dissatisfied with this government. The PAC Act, the Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxics Act, was signed by President Biden that expanded VA healthcare benefits and increased the VA by 88,000 employees. The Trump administration's first wave of cuts plans to reduce the VA by 80,000 personnel, essentially rolling back the PAC. And leaving hundreds of thousands of veterans who have been affected by the carbon pits and depleted uranium in Iraq, Agent Orange in Vietnam, and a host of other deadly compounds without resources. And I just want to point out this piece about the PAC Act and how US militarization and war doesn't just affect human beings, but also affects the environment. And that there is depleted uranium in Iraq to this day that we have used, that is in their soil, in their water, that is in the lungs of friends of mine. This is life and death for us. The VA provides healthcare services not just for me, for my father-in-law who's a veteran, for my friends who are veterans. It's the best level of care we can possibly receive in this country, and it is being ripped away from us. And I am fired up. Like I've never been fired up in my life, and other veterans are fired up too. We are furious because we know what this means. This means we lose our disability. It means we lose our health care. It means our dependents lose their benefits. It means VA home loans could be taken away from us and they could be sold off to mortgage brokers and we could lose our homes. It means that I could have my disability rating changed and my student loan forgiveness could be reinstated. And I could owe over $80,000 in student loan debt. These are the real life consequences that me and some of my fellow veterans are facing. And I know we don't have a whole lot of time to go into this, but I do appreciate the ability to speak here tonight about these issues and how they affect me personally. Like I'm a veteran. I'm also a therapist. And I work with people who struggle with mental health. And I know that this will only cause further deaths within the VA healthcare system. More veterans will commit suicide. More veterans will die from lack of access to quality healthcare. So I just want to be very clear here that this is survival for us. And the only way to deal with this is to fight back. And the only way to fight back is if we fight together. So I just want to end my time with that. And thank you all.
Thank you, Mike, for your emotional and heartfelt, comments. Yeah, it's very powerful, and you're right. People are suffering. And with this, Brenda, I guess at this time I don't know if there's anything else, Denise, Lorraine.
I think that they probably still have loses.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all, but thank you in particular. It's not easy to expose your pain in public, but it was very important that you did it. And we're grateful. This is the point in the hearing where we open the floor first to your stories. How are you affected by the shutdowns of federal agencies? How are you affected by losing staffing at the EPA? If you are, any of you veterans? Okay, but you have veterans in your lives, I assume. How do you understand the horrific impact of shutting down the VA, shutting down veterans healthcare? So please, either questions or also your stories. Yes.
My name is Milo. My uncle passed away at the VA at Hines in 2015. And even in his last week, he was saying to us, go visit the vets who don't have family. The veteran community is the backbone of this country. I got emotional hearing you speak, I'm still emotional. He was my favorite uncle and helped raise me. And I will fight for veterans. That's all I got.
Thank you. Other stories, questions, thoughts?
I mean, I just want to say one thing to all of you, but particularly you in the middle, which is, I mean, I'm so horrified by honestly everything that's going on in our country, but somehow there's a qualitative distinction between, we decided it's not worth feeding children who are hungry. I view it as obscenity. But more extreme even than that is the notion of veterans who've earned these benefits. This is not in any sense charity or just because like we owe that to other human being. This was the deal. You can't go back. That's horrifying. I mean, it's just incredible. And similarly for like, the people at the VA, I mean, it's just amazing to see like the director of the VA, I forgot what his name was, secretary, who talks about how, well, we're not removing any patient-facing employee. Well, you're a business. The people you employ who don't see the customers directly, they're necessary. They're not just kind of a luxury that you decide to do because you have money to burn. I mean, it's kind of an absurdity. So I'm just like, I'm back you all, I'm like incredibly important. And I just hope that you guys all like in the field can like understand that people are behind you, right? It's not like you're on your own and like we do what we can do to try and stop this insanity.
Can I compliment that?
Yes.
That the Secretary of the VA did say, pretty much if you interact with veterans, maybe you're essential to the chose this position, interior decorator. Oh, we don't need interior decorator. That's what they do. They make sure wherever you are in the VA, it's safe. I only know that because I'm the safety representative. Decorating them with pictures. They're making sure that every spot in the VA is safe. There are places, I don't want to exaggerate, places in the VA that veterans should not be going.
Yeah.
That's where the engineers go. The interior decorator makes sure that's, so I think it's extremely important that we educate everyone that we can about the many, many important jobs at the VA that are not patient directing based. It's a family. Everybody's got a role to play.
Thank you. I think that was very important. Yes. Yes.
So I have a comment, and also a question. I feel like this administration is doing this in the most cruel fashion. They actually want you guys to die. They want people to die. And I'm an attorney and I deal with people who need veterans help and social security help. And what I've been hearing lately is that they can't get through to people. They can't get the help they need. I have had to deal with people who are suicidal. They can't get through. And I'm just like, this is so cool. And am I imagining this? Because I feel like that they're doing it by fiat because they're going around saying, oh no, we're not cutting these benefits. So we have to explain, maybe you're not, but you're making it so people can't access their benefits. And what more can we do to raise this point with the greater community? Because I don't understand why there are not more people out there. Like, in Europe on International Women's Day, they had tens of thousands, if not millions of people in the streets. Here, I mean, we get thousands, which is great. But at what point? I mean, people need to hear your actual story, Mike. And I appreciate you for doing this. Thank you guys, all of you guys, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, this is really important and moving. I guess the thing I get the most concerned about is with all these horrific things happening, they're here to make us scared, and it's working in some cases. So I think it's important to understand there is a big resistance. Yeah, all over the world, Europe is definitely ahead of us, but we need to have this message to everyone that it's the people united. We really are united. We really can win this. And it's important because they definitely are having an impact, and so many people I know are having a hard time, expressing the fact that we can and are going to win. And we need to keep on saying this, because if we don't, that's how they got us. So, yeah, it's horrible, but I'm with everyone that's here. I'm so impressed with everything that people are doing and saying, and it's going to get better. And let's just not forget that, please.
Yes.
I'd like to echo a point and then ask a question for some of the speakers. So, I've had the privilege of working with a good number of veterans by working on an ambulance, and I want to echo something that Mike said about how dangerous it is when there is a lack of access to care. Any gap in care creates such immediate dangers and such a deadly isolation for all communities, but especially veterans. And these attacks on benefits are going to do nothing if not create massive gaps in care, right? That are just going to make this so much worse. And my question is for Mike and for Denise. So it seems like every candidate and every administration says that they are for veterans, but so often veterans are betrayed by attacks to benefits or failures to meet standards for those benefits. How can veterans and everyone else process this kind of constant betrayal?
Yes. Me personally, I have, for the most part, no faith in the Democratic Party, with the exception of a handful of people. Other than that, I honestly think that we need to start a new party. a workers' party. That's what we need to do in this country to fight back. Working class party, not democratic millionaire beggars who sold out the working class. So you can get stock options. But us. Like Bernie said.
Yeah.
Not me, us. That's how. You.
Wow. You know, it's so hard to know what's going on. You have to choose your news sources where you get your news. But we have to trust because it's so important to educate yourself. And as the attorney said over here, they're attacking veterans even getting benefits. And this is how naive I was. And I work for the VA. I get a text from a panicky employee. They got an outreach program. What's that? I don't know. So then I started texting around and I found out that it's an outreach program in the city of Chicago in the different wards. And here's what they do. They teach veterans how to get housing, how to get attached to their health care benefits. Because there were some veterans when they were discharged that really weren't eligible. But legislation changed and there's a service for the veterans who didn't have the most that's discharged. Now they're eligible, but they don't do that without outreach. So this is very strategic what they are doing. And getting rid of information or outreach. But to address your question, sir, that's why it's so important to educate yourself so you can speak up. And because if one person speaks up, they know there's 10 or 20 behind them. So the little megaphone you think you may have is actually very big. Thank you.
If I may,
Please.
I just would like to share a few key bits of information about Project 2025 specifically. So it was created by the Heritage Foundation. And chapter 20 of the report details how they plan to dismantle the VA.
Yeah.
It is a 16-page document that was created by someone named Rose Turner, a former Trump VA official, who was before that a Republican staff member of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs, and was intimately involved in the 2014 VA Choice Act that led the charge to privatize the VA. And they are also affiliated with the Koch-backed organization Concerned Veterans of America. So this is all part of this billionaire network to dismantle the VA. And some of the things that we have discussed, there are others. And these cuts aren't going to be felt just immediately, but they're going to be felt for decades. So they're enabling claims sharks. What that means is that when a veteran files a claim through the VA, they do not pay a fee. But now they're going to privatize it so that these claims, the private sector is going to be processing veterans' claims. And they're going to be charging us for that. And there are apparently approximately 200 unaccredited claims companies. Another component is reducing disability financial assistance. So veterans receiving disability and VA compensation will have their rate overhauled or reduced or reevaluated. And what that means for me is, with my particular disability rating, if it drops, I lose my student loan forgiveness, and that loan is reinstated. And then I owe the federal government approximately $80,000. So they plan to not only take away or reduce my monthly benefit, but also to take away my student loan forgiveness, and then also my daughter's and my wife's education benefits that go along with that. So this is all part and parcel, part of their plan and how it's going to be affected in so many different aspects. So,
Thank you. I think it's important for us to understand how these cuts affect you individually as well as affect all of us collectively, because you don't speak just for yourself. Right, Tom?
Thank you all for being here and sharing your stories, and something I'm thinking about, especially kind of connected to the previous hearings we've done, I heard from other workers, sort of just the scale of investment it's gonna take, right, at the federal level to fix all the damage that's already been done, right, to all the agencies. I mean, massive investments, and I feel like, you know, it's something overwhelming to think about, right? And I'm curious if you all think there is a role, especially as we're thinking about what we can be demanding from elected officials, and if there's a role for the state of Illinois, for the state that they can play, right, for the EPA or for veterans, if there's something that is ongoing at the state level, or like a role that the state could play to sort of, you know, help offset or make up for some of these, you know, massive decreases in cuts at the federal level.
I mean, I saw Governor Pritzker talk tough about what Trump's doing, but I also saw him also cut healthcare for undocumented immigrants in Illinois. I saw him not tax the rich who are flocking to Illinois because of our broader access to civil liberties and reproductive health care rights for women and for people. And yet there's no, and we saw it in last November, voters overwhelmingly approved a millionaire tax, similar to what they instituted in Massachusetts, so that our cities and these municipalities can be fully funded. So then maybe if they're cutting, you know, housing and healthcare at the VAs, maybe this municipalities could ramp up, or the state could ramp up. But Governor Pritzker chose not to increase taxes on the rich in Illinois or use his political power to finally implement a progressive taxation in this state. And so communities like mine that are disproportionately Latinx are going to be paying disproportionately higher property taxes and continue to be displaced from their communities. So, you know, what Mike said about we need a party that's representing workers' voices, not talking out both sides of their mouth, and truly fighting for us in a way that's accountable. And our attorney and Shaw said, you know, why, like, we need more. And I think something that I think I find some hope in is that the city of Chicago in particular, you know, we might not be, you know, setting Tesla dealerships on fire like they do in France, but we are progressive in other ways. And one of the ways I think we can learn from the labor movement is to do more structural organizing in our own city. If the ruling class sees that people in Chicago care about each other more deeply and on a more accountable level than they did 5 years ago, that they did 20 years ago, just in our city doing that, if we can be accountable to each other, the people who are marching in the immigration march, or the workers' march, or the science march, all these different marches bring out different constituencies in Chicago. Those people need to be caring about each other's causes and each other's humanity in a way that we haven't in the past. That transformation within ourselves will cause transformation in our institutions. So I really like the leadership can come from us. I'm really eager to meet with people and build coalitions that I haven't been able to build in the past. And I want to be accountable to those people and fight off the forces that would divide us and root myself in what brings us together and stay accountable to that. One way that we've seen, you know, when these ops come into our communities, they foster division. And sometimes, like I was listening to a podcast about somebody who was an activist in the UK who had experienced infiltration by the secret police. And what he said was that these people were chaos creators. They were someone in the space that just, you could never placate them. There was always something. And so you spent all your time trying to deal with this chaos, and meanwhile, the movement got away from you. And so let's have clarity about that and work with people who want to move forward, because we don't have a lot of time.
I really love what you're saying there, that we should be helping on each other causes. Probably how we got to same-sex marriage, because that was like a slow build with civil rights movement, and all of a sudden we got same-sex because there was people were working together. But I want to give this example, and maybe it's an example of the microcosm and the macrocosm. That outreach program that was cut in awards, I saw that it was getting money from the Illinois Department of Veteran Rights or Veteran Affairs and from the Cook County Department of Veteran Affairs. But it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So how much was the county and the state putting in? And that's the microcosm. So the macrocosm, what's that gonna be? It's gonna be, it's just something to think about, because these monies ultimately are going to come from us. And it benefits everyone. Who wants to see a veteran asking for change on the damn riot? Or a veteran not able to be cared for in one of our nursing homes because they don't have family. So I just figured it's just really bad.
It's shameful.
I saw it in the city of Chicago budget, thanks to the Trump tax cuts in his last term that were not rolled back by the administration that in between. The city of Chicago loses $200 million a year from those Trump tax cuts in his first term. Where is that money coming from? The patriotic billionaires who live in Illinois, who benefit from all of us being civically engaged enough to protect our rights in the state. They should be paying like they do in Massachusetts. We need that, that's part of the fight.
Yes.
I think 23% of federal employees are veteran, if I'm correct. I think 47% of the overall workforce are females. If you have been minority workers, LGBTQ, we are the majority. There's no reason for us to sit by and, like you said, watch things get picked apart. We can unite. We are the people. We have the power. We just have to focus and join causes. Solidarity is the only way we're going to survive this.
It's like getting down to brass tacks. Have you identified some Congress people? I know our senators in Illinois are pretty reliable supporters of unions and veterans. But are there some Congress people in Illinois that we can mobilize to actually put them on the spot? And if so, let's like do it, because I think it gives people a sense of where, you know, how do you exercise power if you say Congressman so and so. You know, last week somebody said, when we were talking about postal workers, they support us, but the Republicans don't want to say anything, like really, that they're not supporting us. So let's make the demand that these people support the veterans.
I don't have a list of particular people that I would suggest reaching out to, but I would say all of them. Everyone.
So I don't agree with you, okay? Can we have a fight? Say everyone, that lets everybody off the hook. I want to say Congressman so-and-so who represents whatever district where there are so many thousand veterans. We're going with the veterans from that district to his office. We're going to sit there till he comes out and meets with us. Because when we say all of them, then you only get a general response. And if he doesn't say he's going to support them, you know, that's on his permanent record. I think we have to be more specific.
If we're being specific, I would say any representative that sits either on the House or Senate Armed Service Committee, and then also on the Veterans Affairs Committee.
So we need to find out who they are, right? I'll Google it right now.
I like that.
And there is, well, you know, they stopped having those town hall meetings because people would go and speak up. But some of them are having town hall meetings online. And AFGE is certainly exploring being present at those town halls that are online. So if we could get back to you with that information, or maybe you'll find it online. That's an idea.
There is a sign-up sheet going around the room so that you will get information about all future hearings that we do, and, you know, other information you want, because that'd be one thing that, you know, may help us.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham. If he has a town hall meeting.
I'm sorry, interruption here. The chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee is Mike Boss from South Illinois. Thank you. That's a short drive for us. Why don't we get a bus? I know you got friends down there too. We all do, okay, and have them meet us there. You know, let's like do it.
All right.
But let's let everybody know here. I know people in Southern Illinois, you know, let's put him on the spot. He's hiding behind Trump.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So I've been organizing in like in these different coalitions where we all have these internal names and those are obstructions. I do support this idea of joining to bosses and this being an opportunity for us to kind of put that solidarity into action of like asking all the coalition groups that we are members of, like, hey, can we unite on this? Can we send some people to this and just on that drive, build stronger relationships where we can start to like grow from that and deepen our connections within this state and all the organizing we do. And then also the answer to like all of the politicians are feeling, it's like, yes, like lots of politicians are really coming to our rallies and that sort of thing. But something that I've noticed in electoral politics is like some politicians are elected to suppress the voice of the people. And the ones who take money from billionaires and all those people are much more inclined to do that. And then there are some elected officials like Bernie Sanders that are going around the country to specifically congressional districts where the Republican congressperson won by just a hair, you know, and then he's bringing out thousands of people in a town of 9,000. And every politician, like my congressperson, who's a Democrat, could send a message out to all his voters and say, I'm pissed off. Please come rally with me. All of the Illinois delegation, we're texting all of our people. We're gonna do this thing. If they were mobilizing their base and telling them, hey, we need you to come shut down this Amazon facility. You know, like if I was a congressperson, that's what I would do.
Me too.
So why aren't they doing that? Because maybe they don't want to work that hard for us. Because maybe they have conflicting interests, you know? And so we, like the idea of what is possible is so restricted with people who aren't really fighting that hard for us. And, you know, the way they censured Al Green is infuriating. And they like, there's so much people power and they're getting donations from people who are afraid to awaken it. And so my demand for those politicians when we talk about everybody is like, if they're not gonna, if we have to push them to do the almost bare minimum, then we need to, again, be deepening our, you know, we go to boss, also be having conversations about like, why isn't my strong Democratic district leader like mobilizing us to do something? Like if I was a congressperson, I could call us all to go sit in front of Amazon and have way too many constituents there for the police to arrest us all. And now he lost profit for a day. And that might inspire other people to do it in other districts and oh, Amazon collapses in a week. It's actually really easy once we unchain ourselves from what they tell us is possible and become creative and believing in our own power They may have been scaling up the police state and they may have been building all these places to imprison us, but they're not all done building yet, so we better act. We better act fast. Speaking as a AFGE, yes. We have some questions from the chat on the Zoom, so I would like to invite Alderman Byron Sechel Lopez. I saw that you had your hand up. I'm not sure if you still want to comment.
Yes, thank you very much. And I just want to first thank you to Just with Justice and all the labor groups, civil groups, or neighborhood groups for putting together this important coalition. My question, and again, just to thank you and commend you for this important effort. And we need to mobilize and organize. Mobilizing is important, organizing even more so, with a very important vision for the future that we want to see. Fascism is in our doorsteps. I mean, if we don't see it by now, I think that we have to recognize when they tell us who they are the first time. My question is around May Day, and I know that we need to mobilize in May Day. A lot of our immigrant coalitions, labor, interfaith. I think this is the time for a united voice. I like the comment that I heard here around doing this important um, uh, education, popular education among all our constituents. I do like the idea of doing a pre and post conference, mobilizing, constant mobilization, and bringing again everybody in Chicago. We are I think the target of the fascist regimes, but we also are a place of resistance and a strong one because we are a labor town. So I'm very grateful for all the leaders here to bring us all together. And I would like to see how do we bring interfaith in immigration. I know that meetings are happening now with all different groups. I would love us to think about a united front on May Day, a symbolic day for immigrants who have been an important part of this. And let me end with this. There has been solidarity already by, for instance, the flight attendant unions, where the first Trump administration tried to separate families. Labor stepped in and did not lend their labor to separate families and transport them by air. That is significant actions that bring us and show us how solidarity can work in a moment like this. They are building concentration camps, and there's a for-profit migrant state, as we said it, that is profiting from the suffering of others. I am grateful for the solidarity of labor, and as an immigrant, as a father myself, as I see what's happening with federal employees, working people, billionaires versus working people, I would love us to think about a united, strong May Day, a pre and a post, so that we can continue to organize and strategize together. Thank you again for bringing us together, and we'll see you out there in the trenches. I'm very grateful that we're talking unapologetically about mobilizing against billionaires and their dirty corporations that are becoming more and more profitable from the pain and exploitation of working people. Thank you so much.
Questions online.
Yeah, there's lots of comments and lots of questions, so I'll go ahead and read them out loud. So we've got a comment from Scott Huldison from UAW Local 551. I would like to say thank you to the federal workers for their hard work. We count on all of you. Solidarity. From Jake Herb, anytime someone proposes welfare or other aid to people in need, especially immigrants, conservatives will say, but what about all the homeless veterans? We should help them instead. But they don't actually want to help. They're firing VA workers and workers at all federal agencies who are veterans, just using veterans as a pawn for their fascist agenda. Dems need to stop leaving our trans comrades behind. Pritzker is a billionaire himself. Comment from Jorge Lara Lacla, Chicago Metro, NABET, CWA, Local 41. I support all these workers in their efforts to fight back against these unjust actions by this administration. Ivy Chikansky, I support the workers in the communities you serve. I'm upset that too many people did not take Project 2025 seriously during the election. Elon and Trump treat everyone as disposable. If these benefits are taken and these promises are broken, why would anyone enlist in our armed services? What does our own senator, combat veteran Tammy Duckworth, have to say? A comment from Marcos Ceniceros, Warehouse Workers for Justice. Powerful and important stories. Jose Alcala, time to fight back. We did not vote for Elon.
Jill Manrique Calderon Castillo, it's important to remember how intertwined all of these issues are. My father is a veteran who depends on the VA for all of his healthcare needs. He's been notified that if he needs specialized testing, he's going to have to wait. For how long? No one knows. He has heart issues. He's okay now, but we can't help but worry, and to know that his care is going to be impacted in such a large way is terrifying for our whole family. He comes from a family of immigrants and grew up on the southwest side of Chicago. Many of his friends are also veterans. Like Laureen said, the southwest side is a consistent victim of environmental racism. When looking at the number of Black and brown immigrant folks that go on to serve in the military and end up living in places like Pilsen, Back of the Yards, Gage Park, etc., it's impossible to ignore who these billionaires are blatantly attacking. A comment from Beverly Stewart. Maybe we need a summit of union leaders, SDA, Indivisible, and community organizers who collectively create a program to educate and fight back. A comment from Amy Potter. Darine LaHood is not with us. A question from Beverly Stewart. Thank you all for sharing your stories. Maybe we need a summit of union leaders, SDA, Indivisible, Indivisible and community organizers to collectively create a program to educate and fight back. An obvious strategy of Trump is to pick agencies, universities, opponents off one by one. Are there any efforts to develop a united strategy nationally? And that's a question for the panel.
Jobs for Justice is a national organization, and I know, they're doing, structural community organizing in cities across the country, and I know they have really important campaigns. I was talking to one of the organizers there, and I was asking how the labor movement could connect with them, and it was like, we got to talk about poverty. Poverty is what connects so many of these constituencies. That needs to be, I saw a quote from Karen Lewis, the late great Karen Lewis of Chicago Teachers Union. And she said, when they start talking about school reform, we have to force the conversation about poverty. We all need to organize around poverty and be accountable within our own organizations to make sure that everyone is working in solidarity towards that. Because if we ignore poverty, then we're ignoring a lot of people and we're not understanding the key to our liberation, which is caring about every single person, especially the most vulnerable. And that person is usually in poverty or in danger of being in poverty. If we care about those people, all of our votes will rise. And that's immigrants, veterans, workers, and specifically around, all of us have been, so all of us are carrying some sort of hurt from someone they've lost or someone who, commits suicide, that those people are not here now, but their energy isn't gone. We need to channel the energy that space that person had in our lives and help us to be accountable now as we fight for a world that maybe they could have survived in.
I would say AFG's national strategy, the first thing was the lawsuits, and we have been winning. The probationary employees that were reinstated, AFGE was part of that lawsuit. The second strategy, which we're going to have to revamp, and this is District 7, we're in District 7, which is Wisconsin and Michigan. The strategy they came up with was the town halls, but we saw how successful that was, that they stopped it. But I have to really thank you, and may I have your name? Bobby. Bobby, when you gave us the name of the chair of the Armed Forces Committee, and he lives in Southern Illinois, that is doable. I don't want to be rude and start texting our political organizer, but that is at the top. I'm putting that at the top of the list. And what is
Veterans Committee, Denise?
Oh, Veterans Committee.
Even more.
Oh, come in. I would just like to say that with all of these cuts happening, that these are all interconnected and also this is the consequence of the military industrial complex, which is the umbrella for that connects all of us. It connects the environment, it connects racism, it connects poverty, it connects misogyny. It connects all of these spokes that form this wheel that come together and create the military industrial complex. And now that they're cutting US forces abroad, it only stands to reason, well, where are they gonna go? And they're gonna be here. And I think we need to really think about that and what that means about possibility of having armed US soldiers patrolling the streets of the United States.
Thank you. Yeah. There's a couple more comments. Sylvia Chapman, President, CWA Local 4250. I once read that when one person stands up, he or she are often not noticed, but when thousands stand up together, they cannot be overlooked. And a question from Kathleen Mass-Weingart. The stories are so important. What are one or two things that we can do now?
Oh, I had something, yeah. Last week we heard about the cuts to the postal service, and they're gonna have a rally on the 20th. And we're meeting here next Sunday, which I forget the day, but next Sunday at 11 a.m. to make posters. And a week after that, we're all there's gonna be a group of people attending the rally together. So that's like one opportunity to fight. And then there's also gonna be a labor forum here on March 18th at 6:30 to kind of discuss further strategy around fighting back. Yeah, so if anyone wants more information about that, there's gonna be flyers back here on the table, or you can come talk to me.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I make a quick, so I'm Ann Shaw, as Amy pointed out, this is Milo, and we're here with 5051 Chicago. And it's a grassroots organization. Part of the reason why we're here is because we're trying to connect with labor as well as many people as we can. And we've had several successful marches and rallies, and all of us are paid radical bad word, but we are, and we're looking for more to bring action. And what we're trying to do, so we have one on April 5th. We have another one coming up on April 19th, and we're hoping that more federal workers and veterans will be part of our speakers, because we're trying to make as many events as possible so more and more people can join if they can't make it this day, so that they know that there's something going on constantly. But we're a growing group and we're still new, and we're hoping to connect with as many people as possible. We're not here to take over other work. We're here to support. So if there's other things, like we'd love to help support these rallies, lift them, join in and support, because this is many hands. But we're here just kind of like, here's a date, like show up. And people have been, we've been getting hundreds and now it's growing to thousands, and we just hope to keep that momentum going.
We have a policy of nonpartisanship and non-affiliation, but we have been cooperating with local movements like Indivisible and the Women's March and the Rally for Science. We realize that we do need to unite. And that's why here in Chicago, we're trying to get the biggest coalition we can. For the 19th, we want 10,000 people there. We want Pritzker there, Duckworth, and Durbin. They need to stand united and stand for us, to stand for veterans, to stand for the union workers. Their voices are much more important than mine. We need them there, but to get them there, we need Chicago there. We have to stand together. Union workers are the backbone of this country. Both my parents were union workers. My mom was AFSCME and my father was 786, the Builders Union. They both grew up very poor. My mom's family was from Mexico. Unions lifted them out of poverty, and I want them to lift everyone else out of poverty if I can help it, if I can stand in the matter.
I want to just jump in real quick, because you said something that really caught me, and you said that their voices mean more than yours. They're politicians. They're the same as you. They put their pants on the same way you do. Don't give nobody your power, because your voice is just as powerful as theirs. And your voice is that powerful, one, because you're being an upstander, not a bystander. You're standing up and actually speaking. Two, you got solidarity, which means that everybody in here has a collective voice, which gives your voice power, which gives my voice power, which gives their voice power. And that's rule number one. That's organizing 101, is that our voices matter just as much as theirs. And as long as you keep speaking, we can move this together. So I just wanted to highlight that. So don't give people your power saying that their voice is more than yours, because yours is actually bigger than theirs. They can't move nothing without you.
Thank you.
Power up. Our voices are so important. We tell people about our favorite restaurants, our favorite TV shows and movies. Let's find 10 people that we can tell we were here tonight, and this is what I learned. Word of mouth is like wildfire. Oh, so I would ask everyone to take that footage to tell 10 people.
Yeah.
Put it on Facebook or Instagram and let them know that you were here tonight and that you care about the layoff and cuts going on in the federal government, at the EPA, the VA, whatever it is that you take away this evening.
Can I invite 10 people to the next hearing?
There is a sign-up sheet that's going around, and if you give me, thank you, your email address, I will make sure that you hear about everything that the Workers' Rights Board does. And although I BCC them, if you're very nice, I would be willing to share my mailing lists with you when your organization is holding something, because I do feel like one of the things that comes out of these hearings, which we do, let's say before January 20th, our hearings were mostly for unions that were in some sort of conflict or struggle or contract negotiations or out on strike or something like that. But now we've been doing a series of hearings. I had no idea how many things the federal government does. I didn't, all those agencies, I didn't know. So I feel like what we're doing here is building solidarity. And we're building solidarity by hearing your stories. Your stories, if we are empathetic in the least, we lean to you. We want to support you. We want to empower you. My friend Ivan over there has been having a series of potlucks, and he just invites folks. And we end up having political conversations, and it's really fun. It doesn't have a goal other than making connections, so that when there is an opportunity to do something important, those connections are there, and the people trust you, and the people know you. And I'm so thrilled that we all seem to feel like solidarity is what we have to have, what we can have, what we must have. It's going to be tricky lining up organizations, because there are a lot of them, but we need to do it. Yep. Okay. Yes.
Do we have time for more comments and questions?
Yes.
Perfect.
Kate, did you have any questions? Are you good? Great.
Thank
you, like Mark.
For all of you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Sir, thank you for your service. Daughter of a military veteran. Thank you so much.
And folks, do remember to record the news on Channel 5 and Channel 7 tonight.
Especially Channel 7.
Perfect. Sorry. A correction to one of the quotes is, when one person stands up, he, she, or they are often not noticed, but when thousands stand up together, they can not be overlooked. Just wanted to make sure that that was noted there. But we have a comment or question from Rachel and then one from Marcos in the Zoom. So Rachel, if you'd like to unmute.
Hi, thank you. My name is Rachel. I am speaking in my personal capacity, and my views do not represent my agency or organization. I am an analyst, and I am a community and mental health social worker. Public sector goods and services will be removed so that no one can enjoy them, rather than everyone, with increased equity for the vulnerable and disadvantaged. I am also concerned how probationary employees who have fewer separation nets, such as vacation payout, severance pay eligibility, etc., were targeted and vilified. The public sector should exist to protect workers and citizens, whether it is veterans and/or disabled people. Disabled people, for example, are more likely to be laid off, underemployed, unemployed, and discriminated against in the workplace. They bring diversity and commitment and strengthen the workforce and deserve firmer job security, but the phrase job security has become a dirty word. This job security has been completely decimated. The mental health toll on federal workers is entirely unbearable. It is truly a situation of canaries in the coal mine, an advance notice of danger for everyone. What is remarkable to me is the attempt to deprive people of the ability to thrive, and the harm that is being done is horrifying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now a comment from Marcos or question.
Yeah, I'll make this very quickly. This is Marcos Seniceros from Warehouse Workers for Justice. It's more of a comment, I think. And I'd just be interested in how maybe like nonprofit organizations or worker centers like ours can collaborate with federal workers. Like we ourselves, we've received a federal grant from the EPA to address diesel pollution and because of warehousing, like sort of across the region. And but we would love to think about how we can draw a through line, right, of how federal workers support the work that we do at the local level, right, and how some of the work that we do at the local level starts to fall apart or doesn't really come together because of the federal workers being let go. So maybe there's something there, maybe there's not, but I would just sort of like to think through that there's a through line there, not only with us but other work that's happening.
Thank you, Marcos.
I see that James Taylor has their.
James Taylor, the singer?
He's gonna sing this.
Rita? Can I suggest that, if people will mail Rita any information about demonstrations, anything going on, every Monday when we meet, I will have a list to distribute of anything that's going on for the next week, right? So hopefully we'll have too many things to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
But we don't have to go to work.
All right, James Taylor on the Zoom.
Good evening. Thank you very kindly. My name is James Taylor, and this is just a personal opinion. I've always understood that sheep follow sheep. And I'd like to know what sheep followed Donald Trump. And I've heard it said early on that the politicians' voices are louder than the individual or the constituents. I concur with the young man who said one voice can translate into a million. I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's important that we stand up in solidarity and speak together. But more importantly than speaking together, it's important to make sure you know who you're listening to. You need good information. It's important to know who you're listening to. That's my comment. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, James. Awesome. From our ED, which is Jill Manrique, she wanted to make sure that if you all want to learn more about these hearings, make sure that you're up to date with all of this information. Please sign up to our newsletter. It's in the website chicagojwj.org. So if you want to hear more about this and make sure that you're up to date, make sure that you sign up to our newsletter. We do have a couple more online comments from Jameson Wells from JWJ National. He says that he is so happy to see Chicago J with J holding this space. We've got federal workers' backs. Another comment from Beverly Stewart. Can the CFL call for a summit with Jobs with Justice?
I mean, Don and I can get together for lunch.
We always get together. It was the WBEZ report. Did she have a question?
She just needed correct names and spellings.
Yeah, I think that's it, right?
Yep, that's it for comments.
Questions? Yes, Mike.
I just want to add, real quick, the information regarding Trump's executive term and how it affects, veterans' healthcare and benefits can be found at veteranspolicy.org.
Okay, great. Everybody remember that, veteranspolicy.org. You can send it out. I know I'll forget it in minutes.
Just one last comment.
Yes, please.
I'm a doctor, my name's Ellen, I'm a doctor at Cook County Hospital and I'm faculty at U of I School of Public Health. And I just came from there and we were talking about keeping track of the damage and being and not just to longitudinally fix things going forward, but for attribution. One of the things that I've experienced over decades at county, a very poorly resourced but wonderful institution, is, you know, we're criticized for everything, even though we do a great job with nothing. And I think we have to really keep track and we have to keep control of the narrative and we have to keep turning around saying, this happened because you did this. And not have them, for example, say, oh, well, you see, the VA system is terrible. You know, they cut 80,000 workers and now people aren't doing well. See, it's a terrible institution. We got to keep track, write it down and have clear lines of communication and attribution. Right. And you know, we're working on that in our own like little domains and everybody else, and then we're going to share our narratives.
Yeah.
And you know, this is our third installment of the Workers' Rights Board hearing, and I think it's an opportunity to really tell the story and to counter the false narratives that we're hearing. Right? I mean, there's this false echo lie chamber going on, and you know, labeling these hardworking people, mislabeling, and just like, you know, slandering them, blackling, right? I think if there's a lawyer, there might be a slander suit somewhere. What do you think, man? But, you know, this is an attempt to tell the truth story, you know, truth to power. Truth to power. And thank you for that. And I think we've been doing this every Monday for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. We're gonna take a break because next week is St. Patrick's Day.
So all of the Irish people in here.
Everybody who might have.
Aspirationally.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tonight.
Yes, we have plenty more federal agencies to
Yeah,
talk about.
I mean, think about it, every day, there's a headline, right? Every day, it's like, every day, right? Every hour, something new falls, so.
But I will point out to you that all of you came here tonight, and you came here tonight because you feel for one another, you feel with one another, and you want to unite, and you want to end this. We are not going to turn into the United Corporations of America.
No. Oh, and one more comment. One more, it's from Jose Alcala.
From Chicago Metro LACLA. So Jose, if you can mute yourself.
Hi, guys. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Angie and Jill. I'd just like to say thank you for Jobs of Justice and the CFL for doing such a great job. And we're behind you. Chicago Metro LACLA is behind you. Also, Painters District Council 14 is behind you, and whatever we need to do. Thank you.
And, you know, Jose is part of our fight on to push back on the anti-immigration attacks. So we're fighting a lot of fronts.
Yes. Yes.
They all come together through the military industrial complex, and that's why they killed Fred Hampton. Yeah.
One front. And also, immigrant veterans are being deported.
Oh, that's insane.
Are you serious?
Yes, they have been deported.
That is fucked up.
They joined the US military on the promise that they will get
How do you
citizenship.
remember this now?
Yeah, they will get citizenship, and then the US government recants on that promise and sends them back to their country of origin.
No, they've been doing
it with both administrations. Yeah.
Isn't it true?
You can't trust. That's why, you know, our democracy was so fragile in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. I want to thank Roberta at the Unity Center.
Yeah, you can thank Don for the piece.
Everybody, close, get it.
Yes, thank you for coming. We will be sure.
Yeah, right.